Hello, TDT readers. I'm Alka Elizabeth, and joining me today is Karoly Negyesi, a Drupal veteran. So it's always nice to have video meetings, and so nice to meet you, Charlie.
Nice to meet you too. Nice to meet you too.
Okay, we shall jump into this. I think the first formal thing we need to do here is Charlie is someone who has written codes that millions rely on, and yet most users is unaware of such a person. So I would like to begin by asking, would you introduce yourself? Like, where are you from? What are your likes? How did you come into Drupal?
So, originally, I'm from Hungary, and back in 2004, uh, a friend of mine and I had a very small search engine marketing agency, and we were looking for a CMS
Okay.
because at the time it was practically impossible to uh, optimize the very badly written websites of our clients. So we branched out into creating websites, and we needed a CMS for that.
Okay.
And that's when I almost accidentally stumbled upon Drupal because Gabor Hojci was talking about it, had a session at a PHP event. He
Okay.
went on to become a Drupal core committer later.
Yeah.
and then and then I became a Drupal consultant. I basically dropped out of this company because actually creating websites with Drupal turned out to be much more interesting, and that became my focus. Uh, in 2005, I got employed by a startup in Vancouver
Mm-hmm.
to do a Drupal website for them. This is called Now Public. And I actually moved to Vancouver in 2008. Uh, I actually got to the city first, thanks to DrupalCon Vancouver, which was in 2006 actually, and that was the reason I went there, not the startup. So I moved to Vancouver in 2008, and I spent a real lot of time contributing to Drupal. Uh, a little bit later, there was a survey after Google Summer of Code asking how much more time have you spent with your project because of you are mentoring Google Summer of Code. And my answer was that I haven't spent more. I am already spending all my time there is, so it's not possible to spend more. So that was how those years went. I was working as a Drupal consultant for various companies, uh, and I was working on Drupal core and Contrib. Eventually, MongoDB have sponsored my work on these until 2015, when that contract have ended. And just a little bit later, in 2016, uh, things broke. Uh, I actually got banned from Drupal.org because of my rather, yeah, let's call it what it is, my rather toxic behavior. I don't think anybody, including me, have understood what is going on at the time. It wasn't until much later that I understood what happened. But things somewhat got mended in 2019 when I returned with a new account in a much diminished role. And that's where we are today. I'm still, after 20 years, I'm still a Drupal consultant, although right now I'm looking for a job. And I still contribute a little to Drupal core. This got a little bit higher level last year because Chris van der Water have had a great idea about how to modernize the hook subsystem, and I took that idea and ran with it and have rewritten the entire hook subsystem. So that's a fairly sizable contribution, something like I haven't done in a decade. But I think that turned out uh, relatively nicely. So that's where we are today, I believe.
Okay. So what other than Drupal are you focused on? I understand you were spending a lot of time in Drupal, almost all of your time in Drupal. But what else interests you other than Drupal?
Well, that is where some of the problems lie. That there is, I have tried to find other things, and I have mostly failed. I have never found a community like Drupal. Aside from Drupal, I play video games, read
Mm-hmm.
books, but still, what is most fun is writing Drupal because that's what fundamentally moves me. You know, it's fun. It is great fun doing it.
All right. So like you asked me to address you as Charlie. So when I was trying to read your name here, it's written Karoly. I was going through your LinkedIn profile, and I also noticed that many people call you Charlie. Is it something people found comfortable calling you? Is it easy to pronounce? So you went along with it.
Yes, it is the same name. It is the same name. You know, in German it's Karl, in Spanish it's Carlos, in English
Hmm.
it's Charlie, in Hungarian it's Károly. And so, because I
Okay.
talk to people in English, I just tell them to use it in English form. It is the easiest, I think.
Yeah, it's easier to call Charlie.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was going through your background and I realized that you started as someone as a tech columnist. Then you transformed to the technology field. So do you think your writer experience shaped your perspective towards technology, your approach towards technology?
Well, somewhat yes, because you know the documentation, the
Mm-hmm.
comments, you know that you need to explain and explain well, perhaps more than people who just, you know, abstractly that you need to comment your code. Uh, I know very well that you need to do it because, you know, I have some experience in doing that in much longer format than just a few code comments. So, yes, yes, it has. It definitely has affected me in this way.
Okay. So open source projects, you being someone who has been constantly involved with the open source communities, open source projects has always it had a line that always blurs with when it comes to community and authority. So in your experience, what makes a healthy open source culture? Where do most communities go wrong when it comes to this culture, this blurring of lines between community and authority?
So I would say that most communities don't go wrong per se. I would rather say that a lot of projects uh, just don't have the the sort of community ethos that Drupal has. You know, uh, in Drupal we often say, and it is true, that there is no core team, right? There is not a small set of people who write Drupal core.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can contribute to it. And this reflects, if you look at it, this reflects in our tools. Most projects use GitHub, right? If you do GitHub and you start a feature, then you work on that feature. No one else can work on that feature. It doesn't, it just cannot be done, right? It just doesn't work that way. It is only you who can push into that fork. And this this is a mindset. This is a mindset that that it was very different in Drupal from the very beginning. You start working on something, and someone else can add to it, maybe just help with the documentation, or maybe has a good idea and can rewrite it. And so this creates a much stronger bonded community. And of course, the other difference is that there are few communities of this size, right? Code is written by over 1,000 people. Most open source projects are like a few dozen people at most. There are very few that are this big, and once again, that this is so closely bonded. And this is why I was never able to find another, because I don't think there is any other.
Okay. Moving on. So I have to say this. You practically breathe and live Drupal. So it's so much about the community that the Drupal community made a code website about your passion. Then due to some unfortunate events, you had to walk away from the community. So if you're comfortable in speaking about it, do you think leaving was a response to change in the culture, or was it a natural consequence of pouring yourself into something so much?
You know, uh, this is probably a result, as I said, of the size. Uh, Over certain time, it's just it just cannot be tolerated. They were completely right. Certain behaviors can be tolerated above a certain size because uh, you know, when you have a few dozen people and you know each other very well, then you know that you shouldn't take certain comments too harshly. You know the people very well, you know their motivations. Uh, but when you have something as big as Drupal now, people don't know who is talking, right? They just see harsh, perhaps insulting comment, and that perhaps drives them away, and that just cannot be tolerated. That shouldn't happen. So the culture did change. The culture did change, of course. It's just, I would say, it's just natural from growth, and of course. Uh, there's always been some uh, presence of very large clients, very large corporations, but that also has changed. Now Drupal is uh, used by quite a large portion of Fortune 500 companies, governments, and if any of those just look at what is going on Drupal.org, uh, it needs to meet certain standards. It needs to.
Okay, all right. So, like considering a big community as that of Drupal, it is often possible that the feedback you give or the conversations you make can be interpreted wrongly by other people. So it is important that you focus on a better discourse that where critique isn't mistaken for an attack or also. So from your own experience, how do you think we can foster better discourse in a community like that of Drupal?
That is something that I myself wish I knew the answer to. I really don't know. I really don't know. I don't think the project knows as well. Uh, Something I have observed the last quite a few years is that communication has decreased greatly. Once again, probably because of the size, it's no longer like that. There was a time, but perhaps few remember it, maybe up until 2010, 2011, when Drupal development was like a close knit circle of a few friends, relatively few. Even then, it was probably like 100 and 120. But we were hanging out on IRC almost day and night, uh, talking not just Drupal, just just being friends with each other, and that is mostly gone. That is mostly gone. If you look at now, uh, Drupal Slack, of course, exists, but uh, talk is extremely little. It's something that bothers me, to be fair, but basically it is what it is. But you look at contribute, and there are like a few threads every day. Uh, it is just different, it is just different. But still, I personally miss those days. Others probably don't. So things have changed, things have matured. We need to live with it.
So, coming from someone who has always put pursuit of better code above it, so you've seen firsthand, open source is not about the code; it's also about the people who are involved within the code. So, do you think the idea of this egoless programming is realistic, or is passion always destined to clash with the community?
You know, that is a question I believe that the project currently greatly struggles with,
Okay.
is motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, why are you writing open source? This has been a question, this has been always an open question. And as I said, for myself, the primary motivation is still to have fun. Uh, a lot of other people write it because they are paid. Of course, that has very different dynamics, very different goals. But at the same time, perhaps on the long term, that's more sustainable, right? If you are if you are not paid, then most people will just turn to other things. They will have a job that is paid, and they will have hobbies. Not many people are like me, for whom writing Drupal is primarily fun.
Okay. So, like speaking about the modern Drupal, now Drupal CMS has been released, Drupal 11 has been released. How do you feel about the trajectory that Drupal is traveling at the moment?
Oh, I am extremely glad that I am no longer leading in any sort of leadership position, and I don't need to bother myself with that anymore. I am extremely happy because navigating Drupal in the current era is a task I do not envy. It is it is almost impossible. The world has gone practically mad, drunk on this so-called AI.
Oh,
People think it is going to, you know, some people even think it's going to reach uh, human intelligence, which is quite obviously nonsense. And so, navigating Drupal, its role in this changed and rapidly changing landscape is extremely hard. So I very consciously have no opinion whatsoever. I I work on the technological aspect.
Okay.
and let people who know this, especially Drish, let steer the project. I I
Oh, but like out of curiosity, let me ask. So after the transformation transition from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8, the Drupal saw the shed of too many customers, let's put it like that, the people who are using Drupal, and so many people are still stuck with legacy Drupal as well. So isn't that inevitable that we have a whole change of face? You get a makeover, you become ready to meet the standards of your competitors, become more available for the community, people out there, not the community, for the users out there. Isn't that what Drupal CMS is offering in a way? Like,
I mean, uh, Drupal CMS. I think that Drupal CMS is going to be extremely successful,
mm-hmm.
uh, but that is just an accident. Uh, I mean, Drupal CMS completely outside of Drupal have came out at the most opportune time when the WordPress leadership, which is, as we have learned, is just one man, have decided to kill the project.
Mm-hmm.
There's no better way to phrase what is going on at WordPress.
Mm-hmm.
And when Drupal CMS was started, nobody have thought that is going to happen. But now that it is happening, it is an extremely good thing that that has happened.
Mm-hmm.
That I mean, I don't wish bad for WordPress, but it is such a serendipity that Drupal CMS came out just when a gigantic hole have opened in the market.
Okay. So yeah, I'll add to that as well. So usually when I have this conversation with people and when we have talk about AI integration into Drupal, people are quite optimistic. People are very, let's say, curious, or they are like, okay, we are going to the next level. AI is going to take us to the next level. So from the conversation we have had so far, I think you're a bit of a skeptic when it comes to AI integration into Drupal. So where do you stand on that thing?
So I I am extremely skeptical of this whole AI thing. Uh, from the very beginning when ChatGPT have been released,
Mm-hmm.
how ChatGPT got released, what it is capable of, uh, how much it is hyped, the whole thing. Uh, oh, uh, could you pause for just 1 second? Just one
Sure,
second.
sure.
Okay, this is going to be better. I just fixed. I just fixed the lightning.
Okay.
I probably should have done that before. Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, it's better.
So so this AI thing, you know, uh, I'm too old and I'm too skeptic. We have seen these bubbles come and go. The previous one was cryptocurrency, which of course is still going, but most people have realized that the whole cryptocurrency thing is just a scam by now. Uh, and eventually AI is going to find its place as well. Uh, it has its uses. It has its uses, uh, especially when you are trying to work with an unfamiliar territory than getting a not particularly high quality answer, but still an answer that that contains the phrases and the structures relating to that area. It gives you a very good springboard that you could start from.
Okay.
And in other things as well. That's what I think AI is good for. Using AI given answers as they are and not as a springboard, I think
Mm-hmm.
is folly. It's just folly.
Oh,
Uh, People, I don't think they understand what they are getting from these systems, and it will take some time once again for these systems to find their place. It is probably going to be really bad. It is probably going to be one of the reasons why we are going to have a global recession very soon.
mm-hmm.
Once that passes, then people will somewhat come back to their senses. These cycles come and go. You have these very, I mean, the biggest one was the dot-com burst around
Mm-hmm.
25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
People thought, remember perhaps how that went? People
Hardly.
thought that everything that can be a website should be a website, and it is going to change the world absolutely. And there were insane valuations going on, and then from one day to the next, people have realized that it's just a website,
Yeah.
and hundreds of billions were wiped out on the stock exchange. A lot of companies just disappeared overnight. It's going to happen here as well. It's going to happen here as well. And then, you know, some they will find their place. They will be useful tools, much as we still use websites, right? They didn't disappear just because the dot-com bubble have burst. But uh, right now, you know, I tried AI multiple times. I tried to use it to write code. I tried it, for everyday research, and I maintain this that when you use the AI answers as a springboard, it's useful. Otherwise, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. Uh,
Okay.
People say that it's going to replace junior engineers, and I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about.
How about the possibility of updated versions? Like, right now, I think ChatGPT is using 4.0. I think that is the version that's premium, that's available in the premium mode. How about the, upgrade of each versions? Now, I think DeepSeek R1 by China, it was such a huge news like past week or like in a couple of weeks ago. So how about, you know, is there a like is there is going to be a progression in the updates that's happening in the AI field, right? So will it be able to?
Well, you know, these even framing this as AI is misleading. The
Mm-hmm.
entire the entire field, the entire field is essentially based on a short writing uh, by John von Neumann in the 1950s, when he have declared, without having a single shred of proof, and people just readily believed it, that the human brain is obviously digital. And
Mm-hmm.
people have believed this so strongly that even today, neuroscientists have trouble talking about how the brain works without using those metaphors, retrieve a memory.
Okay.
Your brain doesn't retrieve a memory. It's not a computer. It never was. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows this, that you do not, it's not like a computer. You never can retrieve the memory as a computer does. You do not store your memories as a computer does. All of that is just not true. There was a genius book about this a couple of years back, which have described that in various eras, people have compared to the brain to what was available to them, you know, in Descartes have compared it to a machine, and of course von Neumann compared it to a digital computer. None of that is true, of course. We do not quite know how the brain actually works. So we call this, so then we call something and we pursue something that is artificial intelligence, and by that we mean that it could match this completely misplaced and completely not true metaphor of the brain, So the whole premise of artificial intelligence is broken,
Mm-hmm.
it's just not true. You are building a castle on quicksand.
Oh.
There's nothing there. So, uh, and there's just uh, there's just so much wrong. But beyond this, there's just so much wrong. Almost blindly trusting what a large language model spits back to you. Because once again, I don't think people fully understand or at all understand what they are getting. So no, I don't think I mean, obviously there's some progress here, but it is not there's a it's not going where people think it can go. It's not going to match a human brain ever, at least not this way, but quite likely within our lifetimes, or perhaps even within a few centuries, we will not have a machine that is capable of doing what a human
Human
brain is
being.
capable of. Mostly because we have no clue how the brain works actually.
Okay. All right. So we'll take a break from AI and also moving on, you know,
Sorry, I
going
got
to,
carried away. I
no,
always got carried away at this.
it's always interesting to have conversation as such. Like, uh, so moving on, you're a knowledgeable person. That is the least way to put it. You have endorsements in LinkedIn. In like, combined, you have more than 200 endorsements on LinkedIn. You have some of the most respected names out there talking for you. You have an issue, you go to Charlie. That is what I've read. So it's also quite a bit unfortunate to see you have an open to work banner in your LinkedIn profile as well. So, being a veteran, being someone who has been endorsed by so many skilled experts and top names in the industry, what, like, how do you find yourself in this unpredictable position? Like, does it say about the nature of tech industry, how they've been treating the professionals, or is this the way we value expertise in open source? What do you think?
So this is what uh, this is once again how Drupal have moved. You know, uh, so the reason I find it hard to find work is that almost all available Drupal work right now is for various US government entities, which is only available for US citizens. And right now, the industry has a bit of a downturn because I think at least that's the reason that uh, during COVID, when everybody went remote work, uh, there was a mini bubble. Everybody overhired
Mm-hmm.
because, once again, because everybody went remote, there was much more demand for online services, and now we are going down as there's now, we are returning to less demand for online services. So instead of hiring, most people are laying off. And of course, there are other reasons for that. Uh, I don't think AI, at least not on the level I am, plays any role in this,
Mm-hmm.
at least not in the jobs themselves. In hiring, there is a huge role in AI. Currently, trying to find a job is practically impossible uh, unless you actually know somebody who wants to hire you, because somebody puts out an ad, maybe it's AI written, maybe it's not, mostly it is, so it's very bad. And then hundreds of people who couldn't possibly do that job apply
Mm-hmm.
with AI written lies. Companies know this, so they deploy AI to filter it. And if you do not lie, you never get through this. And you need to be actually skilled in how you lie to actually ever get to an HR person. So the jobs, it is a very bad time to look for a job. But I was my company got acquired by private equity, and well, you know how that goes. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to bad talk them because I still like them, and but that's how these things go. So this is a particularly bad time to look for a job. Uh, my hope is I will go to DrupalCon Atlanta and talk to people in person,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully walk away with a job. That's basically the only thing you can do. These online job boards are absolutely hopeless.
I see.
It is just plain hopeless.
Okay, right. So, do you think so? We as a community have failed to create a system where we can support the people who have laid the foundations for Drupal?
Oh yes, but I wouldn't say that we as Drupal have failed. This is something that the entire open source movement very greatly struggles with. Uh, Aside from extremely few, extremely few individuals who are doing so fundamental work that they are solidly funded, uh, the entire open source movement, you know, works on this, and as we have seen, this created a huge security hole last year. The lack of these mechanisms, uh, and I still don't know how we would do it. You know, there are some solutions, but uh, most of the time, the incentives are not there. You know, it is
Mm-hmm.
extremely hard slash impossible to convince actually the largest companies which have the most money, and because of that they have the largest bureaucracy, to convince that bureaucracy to look at open source as a marketing and R&D endeavor and invest in it, employ people who work on open source. It is the kind of long-term thinking that is very much, just not present in this current era, when, once again, all the large companies are looking at short-term shareholder values, and there is no short-term shareholder
Mm-hmm.
gain in this. There's only very long-term, very indirect. So yeah, the entire open source model is creaking under this. It doesn't break because there are always people who have other motivations and they keep it going. But yeah, yeah, there's utter failure. There's total failure here. But once again, it is so much larger than just Drupal that it's it can be fixed.
Mhm. I think for a moment we'll take a look at the positive side as well. So, being someone who has been involved with Drupal and being one of the pioneers of the community, what is your most cherished or most proud contribution to Drupal?
People. I had the luck to mentor
Mm.
some people who have went from, you know, of course, potential, but have become like so much. Uh, they, people went on to go far beyond to just being coders, being successful entrepreneurs, or community directors, DevRel directors, that sort of thing. So definitely those mentorships are what I am most proud of. Writing code, that's nothing. Everybody can write code and it's ephemeral anyways. You write some code, time passes, newer versions come along, you remove it, you put in something better, and yeah, that's nothing. That's nothing. But people, you you contribute to people. That is always. So that's definitely what I am most proud of. Those mentorships.
Okay. So, in the present day Drupal, what is something you would like for to happen in Drupal? Something you have envisioned for a long time. It hasn't happened yet, but you would like for that to happen.
I mean, going back to finances, of course. Uh, I mean, this is just a pipe dream, right? But if I were able to dream freely,
Mm.
then there would be much, much more money going to the Drupal Association or maybe a Drupal Foundation, and they would be able to fund probably a couple dozen people uh, to work on Drupal. Uh, that would be very nice, but as I said, that is quite obvious that cannot happen. So, uh, you know, we, I am fairly okay with the current situation. It is what it is. We can make out the most of it. Uh, I think Drupal CMS in this way is also a big win because it re-energizes the company, the community. It makes more people want to contribute. It's a good reignite.
So, okay. You once said your life is hopelessly entangled with Drupal. So, having gone through many ups and downs within Drupal itself, like, will there be a life without Drupal, or is it just impossible to have?
That's impossible. I tried for 3 years. I tried for 3 years. It's not. It's not possible. It's just not possible. As I said, I tried and I cannot. I cannot. Uh, I, untangle myself, even if the even if in this situation I end up with a non-Drupal job. I I can imagine, I'm not doing some Drupal contributions. I don't work on Drupal as much as I used to, as I said, but still, you know, it's so such it's I always find this hard to describe to people, to other people, because they obviously don't feel the same way. But it's just it's just sheer fun doing this.
I think people underestimate fun. It's something that keep us going. The fun of doing things.
Yes, but in the last few years, I understood more about this. Why does it feel fun to me and to a certain kind of people? Uh, you see, it's ADHD, it's ADHD, which was also the cause for all those toxic behaviors, because that was rejection sensitive dysphoria, which
Mhm.
would have been incredibly useful if I knew about it, but I only learned that phrase like a year or two ago. So the reason it feels so fun is because ADHD people have dopamine dysregulation, and this causes a dopamine hit. So
Mhm.
uh, this is why it is hopeless. It literally is fairly hopeless. Once you find a good source of dopamine, it's practically impossible to get down from it. Same happens with the video games I play.
Mhm.
It is always like this. I tried this game, I tried that game, but I always get back to how to say the old favorites. Uh, I have I just checked 2,700 hours in Civilization 6. This is what always happens, you know?
Yeah, I get it. It's like revisiting. I think in the modern terms, it's like going back to that one show. No, in my terms. So, be coming from someone, being someone from the literature background, maybe it's going back to the same book to find comfort, going back to the same movie to find comfort. I get it. I get it on a different level. Okay, I think, and I've pretty much covered through all the questions I had prepared, and I think I did venture a bit, away from the questions I've given you as well. But I think I've made you comfortable throughout the conversation. I just have one more question for you, and I think you know you being a person who have gone through and who have experienced so much in his lifetime and who have been involved with too many people. What is that one motto? Do you have a motto that helps you move past everything that has happened to bring you forward, to be hopeful?
You know, uh, I read a lot of fantasy books,
Ah.
and that uh, that uh, has uh, helped to, and I have found a few things in those that that I found profound. Maybe they are tried, but I found them uh, very, motivating. Uh, uh, you know how it is. So there are two that I would like to mention here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, one of them is from Brandon Sanderson, and it is, I will take responsibility for what I have done. If I must fall, I will rise each time a better man. This is one.
Mm-hmm.
And the other is I think it is a little bit darker, but it's had me quite a bit during more difficult times. It says, keep your head down and inch towards daylight.
Mm-hmm.
I very, very, very much like that quote. I I find it does help. I find it does help when you feel times are a little bit darker.
Oh, I think that's the end of it. I've asked you all the questions I've had. I've completely taken up the 1 hour I had. So, would you like to add anything else? Is there something else you want to say?
No, no. Thank you for the interview. Thank you.
Right.